Hare Krishna, welcome everyone to today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Before we start our Srimad Bhagavatam class, let's do a simple Mangala Charana. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaim Narottamam Deving Saraswating Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nasta Paresha Vadareshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavadi Naistikihi Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnana Jnana Salakaya Chaksuramritanjana Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Japataka Swami Iti Namni Nama Acharya Padaya Nitai Kripa Padayane Gaurakatadam Dai Nirgram Tani Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome everyone today to today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 11 Chapter 31, chapter entitled The Disappearance of Lord Sri Krishna. So this is the final chapter in Canto 11, and also it is the continuation from the previous chapter where we heard how the Yadu dynasty, they all disappeared by Krishna's arrangement. So this chapter is the continuation of that pastime. So let's see what Sukadeva Goswami has to say. Text number 1. Sukadeva Goswami said, Then Lord Brahma arrived at Pravasha along with Lord Shiva and his consort, the sages, the Prajapatis, and all the demigods headed by Indra. So after the family members of the Krishna, the Yadu dynasty, all of them died, all 5.6 million of them died at Pravasha. Krishna sat sat down to rest where one hunter by the name of Jara came and shot Krishna's toe, and in response to this hunter's action, Krishna told this hunter that all of this is happening here, including you shooting my toe, is by my arrangement. So this Jara, this hunter, was feeling very, very bad and very, very sorrowful, very morose that he shot the foot of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he was asking Krishna, please punish me. So in response, Krishna says, no, don't worry about this. Now you go back home, back to Godhead. So immediately at that time, one chariot came from Vaikuntha to take Jara back to his home, back to Vaikuntha. And then shortly after that, Krishna's personal chariot driver Daruka came, and he saw the situation there, and he immediately understood, oh, my Lord is about to wind up his pastime. And he began to pray to Krishna in a very pitiable way. And Krishna told Daruka, you please do this one more work for me. Please go and inform all those his relations who are in another place, all the women, children, old men, the grandfathers. Go and inform them what happened here. And also please tell Arjuna to give protection to his other remaining family members, to take them to Indraprastha. So after Daruka left to carry out his master's order, like in this verse here, he says that Lord Brahma arrived with Lord Shiva, with all his consort, the sages, Prajapatis, and all the demigods headed by Indra. Now let's see what these demigods, they are here for. Text number 2 and 3. The forefathers, Siddhas, Gandharvas, Vidyaharas, the great serpents, also came, along with the Chanaras, Yakshas, Rakshasas, Kinnaras, Apsaras, and the relatives of Garuda, greatly eager to witness the departure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As they were coming, all these personalities variously chanted and glorified the birth and activities of Lord Sauri, which is Lord Krishna. Text number 4. O King, crowding the skies with their many airplanes, they showered down flowers with great devotion. Text number 5. Seeing before him Brahma, the grandfather of the universe, along with the other demigods, who are all his personal and powerful expansions, the Almighty Lord closed his lotus eyes, fixing his mind within himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here there's a description here. Krishna, when he saw all his servants, all his obedient servants from the heavenly planets, all the devas, they came, and Krishna's response was, he closed his eyes. So it's a very curious thing. Why did he close his eyes? His devotees came to see him. They were all chanting his glories. So in the purport it is explained here that Srila Sridhar Swami said that Lord Krishna had previously answered the prayers of Lord Brahma and other demigods who had requested the Lord to descend within this universe for the protection of his servants, the demigods. Now the demigods arrived before the Lord, each one desiring to take the Lord to his own planet. To avoid these innumerable social obligations, the Lord closed his eyes as if absorbed in Samadhi. So each one of these devas, they wanted so eagerly to serve Lord Krishna for the very last time. So they all came with the intent to invite Krishna to their abode, to their planet, to their homes. So to avoid all of this, unnecessary social obligation, Krishna closed his eyes and he went into Samadhi. And there's some more explanation by Srila Jiva Goswami, who adds that Lord Krishna closed his eyes to instruct the yogis how to live this mortal world without attachment to any mystic opulence. All the demigods, including Brahma, are mystic expansions of Lord Krishna, and yet the Lord closed his eyes to emphasize that one should fix one's mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead when departing from this world. So this is actually very, very instructive. Krishna did this closing eyes business not to avoid any kind of responsibility. He closed his eyes because he wanted to give examples to all of us that when the end of our life comes, we shouldn't be so much engaged and attached to our temporary material attachments. Instead, we should focus our last remaining energy and time on the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. Text number 6. Without employing the mystic Agni meditation to burn up his transcendental body, which is the all-attractive resting place of all the worlds, the object of all contemplation and meditation, Lord Krishna entered into his own abode. So here Sukadeva Goswami is explaining that yogis usually, when they meditate with the intention of going home back to Godhead, what happens is they will meditate and they will conjure up a fire within their body. This Agni. Agni is the fire from within the own body. So these yogis, they will burn their body up by themselves so that they can finish their business in this world and go back home back to Godhead. So Sukadeva Goswami says here, Krishna did not employ this Agni because it's not necessary. First of all, the reason why the Agni was not employed by Krishna, is because Krishna's body is not material. You only need fire when you have a material body. Krishna's body is totally spiritual. He's Satchit Ananda Vigraha. It's the embodiment of eternity, knowledge and bliss. So what fire is going to do to that? So here in the purport, very interestingly, it is explained, a yogi empowered to select the moment of leaving his body can cause it to burst into flames by engaging it in yogic meditation called Agni, and thus he passes into his next life. The demigod similarly employs this mystic fire when being transferred to the spiritual world. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead is completely different from conditioned souls like yogis and demigods, since the Lord eternal spiritual body is the source of all existence. Lord Krishna's body is the source of pleasure for the entire universe. Those trying for spiritual elevation through meditation and yoga achieves all auspiciousness through meditation on the Lord's body. Since yogis are liberated simply by thinking of Lord Krishna's body, that body is certainly not material, therefore not subject to burning by mundane mystic fire or any other type of fire. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur reminds us of Lord Krishna's statement in the 11th canto, chapter 14, verse 37. He says there, within the fire, one should meditate upon my form, which is the auspicious object of all meditation. Since Lord Krishna's transcendental form is present within fire as the maintaining principle, how can fire affect that form? Thus, although the Lord appeared to enter the mystic yoga trance, this point has also been elaborately explained by Srila Jiva Goswami in his commentary to this verse. So text number 7. As soon as Lord Sri Krishna left the earth, truth, religion, faithfulness, glory, and beauty immediately followed him. Cattle drum resounded in the heavens and flowers showered from the sky. So here it is described what happens when Krishna actually left this earthly realm and go back home back to Godhead. So according to Srila Sridhar Swami, all the demigods were jubilant because each one thought Lord Krishna was coming to his own planet. Text number 8. Most of the demigods and other higher beings led by Brahma could not see Lord Krishna as he was entering his own abode, since he did not reveal his movement. But some of them did catch sight of him, and they were extremely amazed. Text number 9. Just as ordinary men cannot ascertain the path of a lightning bolt as it leaves a cloud, the demigods could not trace out the movement of Lord Krishna as he returned to his abode. So the sudden movement of a lightning bolt as seen by the demigods were not by human beings. The sudden movement of the lightning bolts as seen by the demigods, but not by human beings. Similarly, the sudden departure of Lord Krishna could be understood by the Lord's intimate associates in the spiritual skies, but not the demigods. Text number 10. A few of the demigods, however, notably Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, could ascertain how the Lord's mystic power was working, and thus they became astonished. All the demigods praised the Lord's mystic power and then returned to their own planet. So here, although the demigods are virtually omniscient within this universe, they could not understand the movement of Lord Krishna's mystic potency. Thus they were astonished. Text number 11. My dear king, you should understand that the Supreme Lord appearance and disappearance, which resemble those of embodied conditioned souls, are actually a show enacted by his illusory energy, just like the performance of an actor. After creating this universe, he enters into it, plays within it for some time, and at last winds it up. Then the Lord remains situated in his own transcendental glory, having ceased from the functions of cosmic manifestation. So here, the so-called fight among the members of the Yadu dynasty was actually a display of the pastime potency of Lord Krishna. Since Lord Krishna's personal associates are never subject to ordinary birth and death like conditioned souls, these being the case, certainly the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself is transcendental to material birth and death, as clearly stated in this verse. So the word of an actor or magician is significant here. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur tells a story to explain this magician. So he told a story. The story goes like this. In front of a great king, a magician approaches a stack of valuable garments, jewels, coins, and so forth, all placed there by the king. Taking the jewel necklace, the magician tells the king, now I am taking this necklace and you cannot have it. And he makes the necklace disappear. Now I am taking this gold coin and you can't have it, he says, and makes the gold coin disappear. Next, challenging the king in the same way, the magician makes 7,000 horses disappear. Then the magician creates the illusion that the king's children, grandchildren, brothers, and other family members have attacked each other and that nearly all are dead from the violent quarrel. The king hears the magician speaking and at the same time observes that this taking place before him as he sits in the great assembly hall. Then the magician says, "O king, I no longer wish to live. Just as I have studied magic, so also by the mercy of the lotus feet of my Guru, I have learned the mystic meditation of yoga. One is supposed to give up one's body while meditating in a holy place. And since you have performed so many pious activities, you are a holy place yourself. Therefore, I shall now give up my body." Thus speaking, the magician sits down in the proper yoga posture, fixes himself in pranayama, pratyahara, dhara, dhyana and samadhi and becomes silent. A moment later, a fire generated from his trance blazed forth out of his body and burst into ashes. Then all the wives of the magicians, distraught with lamentation, enter into that fire. 3 or 4 days later, after the magician has returned to his own province, he sent one of his daughters to the king. The daughter tells him, "O king, I have just come to your palace, bringing along with me invisibly all your sons, grandsons, brothers in good health, along with all the jewels and other items given by you. Please therefore give me whatever you consider fitting remuneration for the wisdom of the magic that has been exhibited before you. In this way, even by ordinary magic, one can stimulate birth and death." It is not difficult to understand, therefore, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although transcendental to the laws of nature, exhibits his illusory potency so that ordinary fools will think that the Lord has left his body like a human being. Actually, Lord Krishna returns to his own abode in his own eternal body, as confirmed through the Vedic literatures. Text number 12. Lord Krishna brought the son of his Guru back from the planet of the Lord of Death in the body's self-same body. And as the ultimate giver of protection, he saves you, although when you were burnt by the Brahmastra of Ashwatthama. He conquered in battle even Lord Shiva, who deals death to the agents of death, and he sends the hunter Jara directly to Vaikuntha in his human body. How could such a personality be unable to protect his own self? So, to mitigate his own spiritual master's pastime, Krishna brought back the dead son of his Guru, and also to save Parikshit Maharaj from distress of from the attack of Ashwatthama. Ashwatthama's father was killed by Krishna's trickery. So to take revenge, Ashwatthama wanted to destroy the grandson of Arjuna, who was Parikshit Maharaj. So similarly, the power of Brahma cannot touch Lord Krishna, since Parikshit Maharaj, although burned by the Brahmastra weapon, was easily saved by the Lord. Lord Shiva was clearly defeated by Lord Krishna in the battle with Banasura. The hunter Jara was sent to Vaikuntha planet in his own same human body. Death is an insignificant expansion of Lord Krishna's external potency and cannot possibly act upon the Lord himself. Those who actually understand the transcendental nature of Lord Krishna activities will find convincing evidence of these examples. Text number 13. Although Lord Krishna, being the possessor of infinite powers, is the only cause of creation, maintenance and destruction of innumerable living beings, he simply did not desire to keep his body in this world any longer. Thus he revealed the destruction of those fixed. Thus he reveals the destination of those fixed in the self and demonstrated that this mortal world is of no intrinsic value. So here Sukadeva Goswami is emphasizing the point of why Krishna left this world in the way that he left. He first of all wanted to make sure that there's no real value to this material world. This material world actually has no real intrinsic value. That is the main point. And also he wanted to show to all those yogis who are pure devotees to focus their attention and their energy on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, so that they perfect their human form of life. So in the purport, it's very nicely, this point is very nicely explained. Although Lord Krishna descended to this world to save the fallen souls, he did not want to encourage people in the future to loiter here unnecessarily. In other words, as soon as possible, one should perfect one's Krishna consciousness and go back home, back to Godhead. If Lord Krishna had remained longer on earth, he would have unnecessarily increased the prestige of this material world. As stated by Sri Uddhava in Srimad Bhagavatm, Canto 3, Chapter 2, Text 11, Lord Sri Krishna, who manifests his eternal form before the vision of all the earth, performed his disappearance by removing his form from the sight of those who are unable to see him as he is, due to not executing the required penance. Uddhava also stated in Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 2, Text 10, under no circumstances can the words of persons bewildered by the illusory energy of the Lord deviate the intelligence of those who are completely surrendered souls. One who follows the Vaishnava authorities in his attempts to understand Lord Krishna, transcendental disappearance, easily appreciates that the Lord is the omnipotent personality of Godhead, and that his spiritual body is identical with his eternal spiritual potency. Text number 14. Anyone who regularly rises early in the morning and carefully chants with devotion the glories of Lord Sri Krishna's transcendental disappearance and his return to his own abode will certainly achieve that same supreme destination. So this is a very, very important point. Anyone who regularly rises in the morning, that is at minimum at 4 in the morning, and carefully chants with devotion the glories of Lord Krishna's transcendental disappearance and his return to his own abode, will certainly achieve that same supreme destination. How wonderful. Text 15. As soon as Daruka reached Dvaraka, he threw himself at the feet of Vasudeva and Ugrasena and drenched their feet with his tears, lamenting the loss of Lord Krishna. Text number 16 and 17. Daruka delivered the accounts of the total destruction of Vrishni, and upon hearing this, O Parikshit, the people became deeply distraught in their hearts and stunned with sorrows. Feeling the overwhelming pain of separation from Krishna, they struck their own face while hurrying to the place where their relatives lay dead. Text number 18. When Devaki, Rohini and Vasudeva could not find their sons, Krishna and Rama, they lost consciousness out of anguish. Text number 19. Tormented by separation from the Lord, his parents gave up their lives at that very spot. My dear Parikshit, the wives of the Yadavas then climbed onto the funeral prayers, embracing their dead husbands. Text number 20. The wives of Lord Balaram also entered the fire and embraced his body, and Vasudeva's wives entered his fire and embraced his body. The daughters-in-laws of Lord Hari entered the funeral fires of their respective husbands, headed by Pradumna, and Rukumani and other wives of Lord Krishna, whose hearts were completely absorbed in him, entered his fire. So here, this is the act of performing sati. So it is understood that the anguish scene described here is a display of the Lord's illusory potency, adding a final dramatic note to Lord Krishna's pastime on the earth. In reality, Lord Krishna returned to his eternal abode in his original body, and his eternal associates returned with him. This final heartbreaking scene of the Lord's pastime is a creation of the Lord's internal potency that brings the Lord's manifested pastime to a perfect dramatic end. Text number 21. Arjuna felt great distress over separation from Lord Krishna, his dearmost friend, but he consoled himself by remembering the transcendental words the Lord sung to him. So here Sukadeva Goswami describing the situation of Arjuna. Arjuna is a very close intimate friend of Krishna. So Sridhar Swami tells that Arjuna remembered such verses from the Bhagavad Gita like Naham Prakasha Saravasa Yoga Maya Samavitaha Mudo Yam Nabijananti Loko Mam Ajam Avyayam. This is Bhagavad Gita 7.25. The translation is, I am never manifested to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by my eternal creative potency, Yoga Maya. And so the deluded world knows me not, who am unborn and infallible. Similarly, Srila Jiva Goswami has mentioned the Gita verse, Mam Eva Yasya Satyam Te Pratijino Priyosime, Bhagavad Gita 1865. You will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. So Srila Jiva Goswami also quoted from Mahabharata, from Swarga Parva. There Yudhishthira saw Lord Govinda as the absolute truth in his original personal form. He appeared just as Yudhishthira had seen him before, with all the same characteristics. He was glowing brilliantly with the effulgence coming from his own body, and he was surrounded by his transcendental weapons, the disc and so on, which appeared in their fearsome personified form. O descendant of Kunti, Lord Madhusudana was being worshipped by the effulgent hero Arjuna, who also appeared in his original form. When these two lion among men who are worshipable by the demigods noticed the presence of Yudhishthira, they approached him with the proper respect and offered him worship. This is from Mahabharata. Text number 22. Arjuna then saw to it that the funeral rites were properly carried out for the dead, who had no remaining male family members. He executed the required ceremonies for each of the Yadus, one after another. So we can imagine there was 5.6 million dead there. Arjuna, he was performing the final rites for each and every one of them, one by one. Because all of these personalities were his distant relatives. Text number 23. As soon as Dvaraka was abandoned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ocean flooded it on all sides, O king, sparing only his palace. So here Sukadeva Goswami is explaining that as soon as Krishna left, the sea claimed back the city of Dvaraka. So Srila Jiva Goswami explains that whereas the external manifestation of the Lord's abode was covered by the ocean, the Lord's eternal Dvaraka exists beyond the material universe and certainly beyond the material ocean. Dvaraka has been constructed by Vishwakarma, the architect of the demigods, and the Sudharma assembly hall has been brought from the heavens. In that city there were many beautiful and splendorous residents of the aristocratic Yadu dynasty, and the most beautiful residence of all was that of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Jiva Goswami mentions that even in the modern age, people who live near the site of the original Dwarka sometimes catches a glimpse of it in the ocean. Ultimately, the Lord's associate and abode are eternal, and one who understands this is qualified to become fully Krishna conscious. Text number 24. Lord Madhusudana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is eternally present in Dwarka. It is the most auspicious of all auspicious places, and merely remembering it destroys all contaminations. Text number 25. Arjuna took the survivors of the Yadu dynasty, the women, children and old men, to Indraprasthra, where he installed Vajra as ruler of the Yadus. Text number 26. Hearing from Arjuna of the death of their friend, my dear king, your grandfather established you as the maintainer of the dynasty and left to prepare for their departure from this world. So here Sukadeva Goswami says that seeing what has happened to the Yadu dynasty, Arjuna installed Parikshit Maharaj, his grandson, as the maintainer of the Yadu dynasty, who are under their protection in Indraprastha. Text number 27. A person who with faith engages in chanting the glories of these various pastimes and incarnation of Vishnu, the Lord of Lords, will gain liberation from all sins. Text number 28. The all auspicious exploits of all attractive incarnation of Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and also the pastime he performed as a child are described in this Srimad Bhagavatm and in other scriptures. Anyone who clearly chants this description of his pastime will attain transcendental loving service unto Lord Sri Krishna, who is the goal of all the perfect sages. Thus ends the purport of the humble servant of His Divine Grace, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, of the 11th canto, 31st chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Disappearance of Lord Sri Krishna. So, Hare Krishna everyone. Today, this is the end of the last chapter of Canto 11. After reading Canto 11, I can see why Canto 11 is a very special canto. It's the summary of all of Srimad Bhagavatam from Canto 1 to Canto 10, philosophically speaking, of course. So I can't wait to start the 12th canto, the last canto in Srimad Bhagavatam. So I will see you all next week for the continuation of Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.